And our next speaker is Representative Morgan.
Governor Morgan.
So I do it a little bit differently. I actually used to be a teacher, so I have a PowerPoint presentation for you all. But it's not as boring as it sounds. It only lasts 5.5 minutes. Anybody can last through a 5.5 minute PowerPoint presentation, and it'll tell it tells my life in pictures, basically. You guys will have to move. You can see it. We're going to put it up here. And then after that, we'll show my announcement video. How many of you have seen my announcement video? Great. Great. All right, you're going to get to see it again, and then we can all have questions. Bob just needs to plug this in, and we'll get started. It was busy down in the State House today.
Oh, yeah.
It was flooded with the Mothers Against Gun Violence. It was
Most of them are even not from Rhode Island.
yeah,
They bust
I
them in
know.
from,
You know, there's the OFA, Organizing for Action group, which is an Obama-sponsored group, and they've been active now for quite a few years, and they're well funded, and now they are very they know how to call them in on any number of issues. I think we Republicans have to start doing that ourselves.
yeah.
We're getting there.
Okay,
No, not yet.
you need to turn off the lights in the front. How do you do that?
Chris?
I'm afraid of the sound.
Can you see it well enough? I guess you can see it without blue light. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Whoa, not all of them are. Well, like going to the movies. Yeah. Okay, are you ready?
We are as ready as we're gonna get.
All right.
How's that?
Okay, so here we go. Ready? 5.5 minutes. That's all it takes.
The timer.
Hi, I'm Patricia. Actually, I'm Patricia L. Morgan. The L is for my maiden name, which was Lane. I've also been Patricia Janet Lane when my mother was angry with me, Patty Jane when she was happy with me, and Patty by just about everybody from my hometown, which is in Ohio. I've also been Patricia Mulligan. My maternal grandfather, George, was born in Wales, and my grandmother, Sarah, was born in England. My paternal grandfather, Frank, and grandmother, Josephine, are from Poland, were from Poland. They came to America just before World War I. My father grew up in Akron, Ohio, and my mother grew up in the middle of England, which is in the Midlands. They met while my father was in the 82nd Airborne. He was stationed in England as they were preparing for D-Day. For my dad, it was love at first sight. They married 6 months later. My dad survived the war, and my mother sailed for America. We lived in Akron, Ohio, and my dad built tires for Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. My mom stayed at home and took care of my 2 older sisters and me. I'm the one in the middle. I'm one of the few people you know who had a pet chicken. I've always loved the beach and fishing. I graduated from Northwest High School in Canal Fulton, Ohio as the valedictorian. I received a full scholarship from Firestone and went to Kent State University. And yes, for those of you who are old enough, I was there. Piece of history right here. I graduated summa cum laude from the Honors College with a concentration in Victorian literature. Not a great subject for future employment. After college, I married a naval aviator in Meridian, Mississippi. With 3 other teachers, I began teaching special education English to 60 mostly black, mostly on welfare children at George Washington Carver Junior High School. After 3 great years, we moved to Jacksonville and I taught a gifted class until my first son, Bernie, was born. The Navy keeps you moving, so after 2 years we moved to Newport, and I've been here ever since. After our second son, Stephen, was born, my husband and I started an air charter and flight school at TF Green Airport. We grew it from 4 Cessna aircraft to 12 over a period of 10 years. Our third son, William, died, and we welcomed our fourth and last son, Brian. After 22 years, my first husband and I divorced, leaving me with 3 sons knocking on their teen years. The really happy-looking one there, whose lap I'm sitting on, he was the oldest and the most grumpy. It was hard. In addition to teaching, I painted houses one summer. I worked in a call center for a few years, and I did a lot of tutoring. But we made it through. We've had 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a goldfish that lived for 7 long years. I was the Cub Master for Pack 22 Phoenix for 8 years and grew the pack from 4 tigers to 65 Cub Scouts. When my youngest son started kindergarten, I went back to teaching, first at Pontiac Middle School and then at Cranston High School West. I've earned a master's in education from Rhode Island College and a principal's certificate at Providence College. I've served as the president of the Rhode Island chapter of the American Society for Quality. While I was at Cranston West, I applied for and received the first of its kind workforce development grant to bring quality in education to our high school. In my 10th year of teaching, as my oldest son was preparing to graduate from Villanova, I attended a job fair to get information for him, and I was recruited to be a financial advisor at Smith Barney. I now work out of my home for Spire Investment Partners. Politically, I started as a town chairman, so I know what it's like. I was the chairman of the West Warwick Republican Town Committee, and with a small group, we stopped Democrats from demolishing the Royal Mills, which at one point was the largest cotton mill in the world. Our efforts brought about its restoration. It was a $70 million investment. I was elected state chairman of the Rhode Island Republican Party, and I served 4 years. In 2010, I ran for the Rhode Island House of Representatives in one of the most Democrat districts in the state. I am now the minority leader, and I am the first female to serve as a leader from either party in the history of the House of Representatives. I am a trap shooter. I have volunteered for the Women's Democracy Network in Moldova, Ukraine, Jordan, Serbia, Turkey, and Thailand. I sponsor Eco Depot events in my district every year. I serve as the chairman of ALEC in Rhode Island, which is a free market think tank. I have one granddaughter, Caitlin. She's actually 4 now. I should change that, but this is a cute picture. My mom, Dot, turned 93 last month, and she's in the village of Waterman Lake up in Greenville. I was the leading opponent against tolls, against creating the most extensive network of tolls of any state in the country here in Rhode Island. I fought a 65% tax increase in my district, and we won. I studied and exposed wasteful practices and policies at the Rhode Island Convention Center, produced a damning report, and proposed solutions, which the governor has completely ignored. I am fighting taxpayer funding for the billionaire owners of our minor league baseball team. During my entire political career, I have exposed and fought corruption. At one point, I had taken 45 members of the General Assembly to the Ethics Commission. I was the skunk in the garden at the garden party when I showed up there. I have been a strong advocate for free market principles, limited government, and personal responsibility. And now I'm running for governor, and I need your help. That's it. My headquarters is at 1170 Bald Hill Road in Warwick. Oh, so we'll watch this. He's fast. Are you ready?
Almost.
Quick question. You mentioned the tolls. Now, as governor, if you become governor.
We're home to the largest fresco collection in North America, one of the largest dome structures in the world, and of course, home to the largest bug on the planet. As Rhode Islanders, we have the largest hearts in the nation, and our beauty and the kindness of our neighbors make this state a place where anyone would want to raise their family and grow their future. Unfortunately, we also lead the country in the largest amount of public corruption. It's simple. Our government is broken. For years, we have seen our state leaders take care of insiders instead of hardworking Rhode Islanders. I have fought against policies that make our cost of living higher, our property taxes soar, and our jobs stagnant. As the daughter of a World War II veteran who fought with the 82nd Airborne and who after the war worked in the Firestone Tire Factory, I truly understand and appreciate the importance of strong family values, hard work, and unequivocal determination. As a special education teacher, I carried those values into the classroom. I worked with sustained effort each and every day, guiding my students toward a path of independency and success. Whether as a single mom of 3 boys, or as the first woman to be a Rhode Island House Minority Leader, I have carried those values with me. Those same values continue to be grounded in my character and reprised in my service. I have worked hard every day to make the lives of my constituents better and more secure, and to deliver brighter futures to them and their families. Times have been tough throughout the country, but they have been even tougher here in Rhode Island. I have seen my constituents struggle with a stagnant economy, which was one of the first into the recession and one of the last out. Now more than ever, we need that grounded leadership and a clear vision and strategy of what needs to be fixed to guide our ocean state back to prosperity. I'm Patricia Morgan, and today I humbly and honorably announce my candidacy for Governor of Rhode Island. I want to be that leader for you. Rhode Island was once the bedrock of the Industrial Revolution. Let's revolutionize our economy again. We introduced gaslit streets to the nation. And as your governor, we will send a new light across America, one that's powered with strength and vitality. We're home to one of the oldest standing structures in America and the most historic portrait ever painted. Let's make history again. I'm running for you. As governor, your best interest will be my first priority, and together we will show the rest of the nation that the smallest state in the Union, yet again, will have an oversized impact on the rest of the country. I'm Patricia Morgan, and I approve this message. So don't say it until you get to the So, my headquarters, first of all, my website is patricia4ri.com. 4 is spelled out. Remember, I'm an English major, so I spell it out. And the headquarters is at 1170 Bald Hill Road. So you know where Haxton's Liquor is over on Route 2? Kind of right across the street.
Can't miss the sign.
Yeah, yeah, right. Just cross the street and just dump a little bit from there.
It's down the road from Staples. It's next to Staples. How's that? That's better than Haxton.
The flea market.
Just down from Staples. How's that? It's the old JD's motorcycle shop. My campaign manager starts on Thursday, and it will be open full time starting Friday. Okay, so questions.
Yeah, the big one, you know, all Rhode Islanders are concerned about. Now, as we know, the gantries are going up. Now as governor, would you do everything in your power to remove those gantries and tolls from the state of Rhode Island?
They're coming down when I'm governor.
Yes. That's awesome.
I will do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Next. Yeah.
What can you do as governor to stop or reverse this process with the baseball field in Pawtucket?
Yeah, whether you mean if it passes?
Yeah, I mean, what we're looking at is public money again going into something that's going to be private in the long term.
Yeah.
What can we do? What can you do as governor? What will you be able to do if you take office in January and this bill is already passed?
I'm not sure. No one has ever asked me that, to be honest with you. There has to be a bond that has to go out. I suppose we could slow down the bond, but it will be a bill that's passed. Quite frankly, I don't think it's going to go through. I can just tell you that the speaker really has done polling, and he knows that the people of this state don't want that stadium. But as far as if it is passed, how do we stop it? I think only through the bonding process, and then at that point, it's just slowing it down, not really stopping it. I mean, it's just a really bad deal for Rhode Islanders. It's guaranteeing the owners get profit by going into our wallets.
All of them don't
And
need
all
it.
of the risk goes on our shoulders. So I do not believe that it passes, because I think the governor really, the speaker really would like to stay there for another term. His plan is to stay for at least one more term, and he knows that he won't if he pushes that through. I don't think they care in the Senate.
They passed it.
Anything else? Okay.
Patricia, the Department with the Human Services with the EPT cards, what did we do about that? I see Gina's bringing in some other, whatever. I'm just straightening the mess out.
And you have, that's just such a disaster. It really is. You know, I go down to the welfare office, the Providence Welfare Office, every couple of months since it first started. And it's better now, I will say that. In the very beginning, there were people who were going without medical treatment. Without their cancer treatments, without their insulin, because they were just thrown off of Medicaid. So they mostly have solved that. Now the big issue is with our elderly. There are still 4,000 cases that haven't been resolved, and over half of those are elderly folks who are medically fragile but can't get into a nursing home. And their loved ones are trying to maintain them in their homes. It's just a mess. And if you go down there on any day, there's always a long line out the door of people who are on welfare don't have savings accounts. They just don't. And when their benefits are cut without warning, they have no place to go. You talk with people in line, and they will have gone to the store to buy their food. They get up there, they give their card, and there's nothing on their card. And they don't have any place else to go to get food. And that's what has been happening to them on a regular basis. People without warning they just don't get money on their EBT card at the beginning of the month. Or their benefits are cut, or they're asked to pay more for their co-pays and stuff. It's really a mess. We have looked at it, and it appears that it's going to stay a mess for at least 9 to 10 months. The savings that we thought we would realize, we are not realizing any savings from this. And what I see going forward, and something that I'm going to have to grapple with when I'm governor, is the effect on our nursing homes and our home health care. When Governor Carcieri was governor, he actually got a waiver from the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services that allowed him to use home health care providers to keep people in their homes rather than putting them in a nursing home. Most folks would rather stay in their homes if they could. They get medically fragile, but with some supports, you can keep them in their homes. They're happier that way, they're healthier that way, and it's cheaper for the state.
Comfort zone.
It's their home, that's right. They'd rather stay in their homes, and their loved ones would rather have them there, but with supports. That really saves the state money. But because of UHIP, the home health care industry has really collapsed in Rhode Island. I think you saw that the Rhode Island Visiting Nurses Association went bankrupt. Our two largest providers, one is called Homefront or something. I can't remember now, but they just went belly up. They went bankrupt. And there were two things working there. Because UHIP wasn't determining eligibility, they weren't getting patients. And then the rising minimum wage squeezed them as well. The governor has level funded them for years. So you can take care of people cleaning up after them, wiping their chin for 11 bucks an hour, or you can go and work at McDonald's for $10.50. People were going to McDonald's rather than put up with that. And the governor simply wouldn't raise their rates. So it's just kind of a whammy on taxpayers, quite frankly. Our medically fragile are trying to get into nursing homes. The nursing homes are accepting them. The nursing homes don't know how much to charge them as their copay. Remember, everybody has Social Security usually, maybe a small pension. So even when they go into a nursing home on Medicaid, Medicaid doesn't pay 100% of it. There's always a slight copay. The nursing homes don't know what to charge. So at the end of this, somebody's going to say to the nursing homes, you owe us $8,000 for that patient. The nursing home doesn't have it because they didn't charge the family. They'll go to the family, and the family will say, we spent it. Who will handle that bill? And it could be millions and millions, because this is going on for 2.5 years. The taxpayers probably. We'll get stuck with this. The federal government will come back and say, you've got to make the system whole. It's a huge time bomb that's out there. The nursing homes are really worried about it. The home health care providers are gone. UHIP has been a disaster for our state. We'll manage through it. We'll figure out how to do it. We'll get the home health care providers back up and running again. But this has been an unmitigated disaster, seriously, on so many levels. I really hope she has it fixed by the time I'm governor. I'll clean up the rest of the stuff. But seriously, we're talking, they're not even guaranteeing that it will be fixed by next January. Think about that. That will be over 2 years, two years. Any other things? Yep.
Line item veto. If you had it, we wouldn't have the problem that we're having, A, with the ballpark, because Mattiello would not have the power. What can we do? I mean, I know I worked with Ken Block on trying, to get the governor needs the line item veto. We're only one of 3 states left. What are you going to do?
Support Ken in trying to ram that through.
Yes.
We got rid of the master lever. He's,
Yeah, because that didn't affect Mattiello, so he was,
yeah.
but this will. It will take the power away from him, which it doesn't belong to the Speaker of the House.
It doesn't. The line item veto will be a good tool. It's not the most powerful tool that's out there. It just makes the legislature rethink their spending. Makes them rethink it.
I think that's pretty
I've
powerful.
seen how Governor Baker uses it up in Massachusetts. He actually vetoed, I don't know, say $80 million worth of things. And they overturned his veto on about half of those, but he still got savings. And that's its value. You make them go back and justify some of the really wasteful spending that's in the budget. We don't have it. You're right. We don't have Inspector General yet either. And be honest with you, when I'm governor, I'm going to put an Inspector General in my office.
Absolutely.
They won't have subpoena power, but I figure I'm going to have appointed all the directors, so they're going to have to give him the materials that he needs to do his job, or she needs to do her job. So the Inspector General, I think, can be an even more powerful tool than line item veto, quite frankly. I'm not tied to the past. I don't have to protect anybody. If there's waste, fraud, and abuse out there, we're going to find it and start getting rid of it. It's the only way I think that we can have a healthy economy again, is to clean up what's wrong with government. And there's so many bad policies in government that have just built up over the last 80 years.
I use it all the time. Patricia, just so you know, we have line item veto here. It's a little more difficult when it says 9-0 council against you. Because even when we veto it, they override, but it does allow you to really show what their spending priorities are and talk a little bit.
It makes them rethink it a little bit.
And
yeah.
occasionally we prevail.
Once in a while you prevail? Yeah. I mean, Charlie Baker didn't prevail on everything either, but he got some of it.
He's also the
So
most
the
popular
worst
governor,
stuff, I
so.
think, comes out. The very worst of the worst spending comes out. But It's all of the things working together. We just have so many bad policies that just are crippling our state and our economy. Since the recession, half of the jobs that have been created pay less than $35,000. And in the last year, a third of them pay less than $27,000.
People need living wages.
Well,
There's no way you can make
no
it for a
wonder
family like
a
that.
third of our population is on Medicaid, of course. When you're making jobs that only pay $27,000, those folks, they need assistance. They need the Medicaid. So we really need to do better, and I think we do better by going back and just getting rid of bad policies. It's hard though. I can't tell you that that's an easy chore. Every bad policy has somebody who likes it.
You have to get rid of the bad people first.
Yeah.
You know, I've been pretty strong leader in the House. I have a strong voice. I've been talking about Republican policies, Republican principles. I think we've gotten stronger as a Republican caucus, a Republican Party as a result of it. But one thing, they really can turn off your microphone when you're in the House of Representatives. You can't turn off a governor's microphone.
All right.
And I'm a pretty good teacher, and I will still be that strong voice, convincing the people of Rhode Island that there's a better way than they're living now. And I think that resonates with everybody.
Another question. Current administration is putting Syrian refugees, illegal immigrants over, and a lot of politicians don't really address this question. We got homeless people, Rhode Island veterans on the street, Rhode Island citizens on the street, Rhode Island families sleeping in cars. Now, as governor, what would you do to help these people, create some kind of program or something to help these people get a fresh start in life?
The homeless and our unemployed, I just spoke about it. We really have an unhealthy economy here. We're the first into a recession and the last out. And our largest export is working age people because there's no good opportunities here. So we really have to go back. We have to take on those bad policies. We have to start eliminating them. There is a reason we have such high property taxes here. It's not because the mayor wants to have high property taxes. It's because we have so many laws that force cities and towns to constantly look for new revenue. We've got to stop those. And those are when the municipal unions can't get it done in their contracts, they come up to the State House and they get those provisions passed. I keep picking on disability pensions because I think everybody knows that system is broken. But that really causes a lot of cost at the municipal level that's just passed on to you. There are problems with our joint and several liability laws, which I'm not going to, I don't want to, I can't explain it. It's wonky stuff. But there are so many things that force cities and towns to constantly raise your taxes. They don't want to do that. We need to start pulling those back because those property taxes hurt small businesses. And small businesses are where we get more than half of our jobs in Rhode Island. We're hurting everybody with those.
While you're on the small business there, I wanted to mention the tangible taxes. Now, as every business owner in Rhode Island knows, and I know sometimes it's a city issue, but the tangible taxes are really crippling and hurting local businesses. As governor, I know it's a town issue sometimes, but as governor, what would you do to help alleviate some of those tangible taxes for small businesses?
Yeah, our caucus actually has sponsored a bill to get rid of the tangible personal property tax. You have to understand that business, that's this. They charge a tax on this, on your light fixtures, on your desk, on your computer, your telephones. What you need to just be in business. Not your inventory, but just this stuff. Again, in doing that, it's not about taking, right now we're taking the car tax out of the state budget. That's like taking it from your left pocket and putting it into your right pocket, right? It's again looking at all those laws that cause the cost of government to go up. It is the things that I call them insiders because they're all over the board. There's all kinds of insiders up there that are constantly getting laws passed that benefit them, but that hurt the common good. And we, as leaders, we're stuck in those laws. We need to start eliminating them. We need to reform them. If we can do that, everybody can have a better life. You know, you try to make the case to lawyers. You don't have to game the system with joint and several liability. Joint and several liability is basically the deep pocket suits. If you are involved, or a city is involved in somebody falls somewhere on a sidewalk, it's nobody's fault. It's a slippery sidewalk. They fell. They should have known better. I mean, there is some personal responsibility, but they will sue the city. And that's because the city has unlimited deep pockets, correct?
Well, they will assume that, but what they'll do is, and Patricia put in legislation and supported us through the judicial reform and judicial fairness out of the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust. What they'll do is they will sue everybody. So instead of suing one, they'll sue 6 parties and hope that all 6, even if all 6 only come up with 1/6 of what they're looking for, they've gotten everything that they're looking for. So they'll go after multiple defendants all over the place. I mean, I think the best illustration of that is if you look at the settlement of the Station nightclub fire.
Yep.
It was the beer distributor, it was the foam manufacturer, it was everybody who might have at some point ever had anything to do with that building. And when you have 100 pockets that you can go after, they were able to put together a case like that.
Yeah, and often cities and towns are dragged in. It might be a stop sign and somebody stops and then somebody hits this, right, and somebody stole the stop sign, and now this is the city's problem. And the city ends up spending money on lawyers and settlements. And that's your property taxes. Other states have done reform around this, where you have to meet a threshold of, you have to be 50% liable before you have to pay the whole settlement. Not in Rhode Island. You can be the city that just had somebody steal your stop sign, and you will have to pay the entire settlement. Because the other people involved have no insurance, and the city does. So it's those kinds of things, and I've talked with lawyers, and I said, you don't have to game the system. If you allow industry to thrive here, you'll be busy with business clients, and you won't have to be ambulance chasers. I hope nobody here is a lawyer. but you get what I'm saying. Sorry. All right, but there's too many people over the course of time that have gamed the system and gotten special bills passed to help them, but then it hurts our entire economy. We don't have a healthy economy in Rhode Island because of it.
Last question, I promise.
That's how you help people who are homeless, who want better jobs. You get our economy rolling again. The best social program is a good job.
It is.
Do committee members have any more questions for Representative Morgan?
Oh, just one last question, I promise. Because major concern on Rhode Island.
This is the last one.
Major concern on Rhode Islanders about the unwarranted power by the Department of Health. As you know about the HPV vaccine being forced, and we had to literally fight to keep our parental rights and our constitutional rights. I'm not debating if the vaccine's safe or not, but as a governor, what would you do to stop that overreach of power by the Department of Health?
Yeah, I've looked at the Department of Health in a couple of different angles, and they're pretty authoritarian over there. I can say this, that if it's a good idea, it usually sells itself. I got my kids vaccinated because I knew it was a good idea, and I give parents all the information. They'll make good decisions for their kids because they want to protect their kids. I think that's true with everybody. It's a matter of giving the information, teaching it, having their doctors fully informed about whatever the policy is. And I think you don't have to mandate things when you put out the reasoning for why it's good for your family.
So you support parental rights and... Okay.
Right, good question.
Okay, going back to the Second Amendment. Currently now the governor wants to do a red flag executive order. Okay, so me, myself as a gun owner, and I'm sure there's more out in here. So we say something on social media that may be offensive to somebody, we could get our firearms taken away.
Yeah, that's actually one of the, so the red.
Also, too,
Okay.
they're looking at an assault weapons ban. Okay, so they're looking at banning scary guns. Okay, let me tell you, I can sell you a Corvette that's has a Hyundai underneath it. Guess what? It's still a Hyundai.
Yeah. Let me just talk about the red flag law. Actually, the NRA is in favor of a red flag law as long as there's protections inside of it. And I've read the bill that was put in today, and it doesn't have all the protections that I think we should have. So we'll work really hard to get those protections into the bill because I think it's going to pass. But one of the protections that we think has to be included is that if you willfully make a false statement about somebody, that you would be liable for attorney's fees and a violation of their civil rights. This is my ex-husband Bob, by the way. So I've been in divorce court way too much. Just put it that way.
Don't blame me.
And I know that restraining orders and things are often abused in those situations, in divorce proceedings, in child custody battles, in just the course of life. And so we wanted to make sure that that provision was in there, that if somebody willfully misled about somebody, made a false statement, that they would be liable. We think that that would be chilling then. Listen, the red flag laws, and the reason the NRA likes them, and that they've been successful, is they actually stop suicides. I don't think they're going to stop people who are mentally ill. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Though they might have picked up this murderer in Florida, but they do stop suicides because people who are stressed like that, they often say, oh, I want to kill myself. They say things for months before they finally do it. And if that's what happens, if you take a gun away from somebody who's suicidal, you might stop them from killing themselves. I mean, they might just use something else that's true. But the NRA, none of us really want somebody, we don't want guns used to kill other people. So the NRA is supporting that, but with some caveats. There's another flaw in the bill that's there now. It doesn't have really good definitions about what the red flags are or what the behaviors are. So it could be any behavior, like you said, you could just get on the Facebook and say, I hate you, and that could be considered hate language, and they might take your gun away. So there's not good definitions. And another one is there's supposed to be a committee that decides what the red flags are. What are the red flags? What kinds of behaviors? It's made up of law enforcement, which I trust law enforcement. But then it's made up of anti-gun groups, but no pro-gun groups. And I think that's a flaw. I think you have to have a committee that is balanced, and there's a real imbalance there. So there's some flaws to it. We're going to try to fix it. But again, the NRA isn't against them. Remember, they try to demonize the NRA, but the NRA is just there to protect people's rights to go out and trap shoot, to target shoot, to go hunting, to do whatever they want to do.
Well,
they're not trying to protect people who want to shoot another person. That's not what the NRA is doing. They're not protecting criminals. They're not trying to protect people who go into schools or nightclubs and kill others. They're not doing that. They don't want that. They just want to protect your right to go out and enjoy camaraderie with your friends, shooting. So
which also brings me to the point of they want to present a bill that puts, so you have to be 21 years of age to buy a firearm. Currently, state law is you can go hunting at the age of 16.
Yes.
Legally by yourself. Okay, so if my son decides to go out hunting at the age of 16, he's not quite there yet, but he will be. So then, you know, you have to be 21 to buy a beer. Okay, if you get pulled over by the cops with this beer and you're 20 years old in 359 days, you get arrested, correct? So now you put that same attitude to the hunting community. My son, he wants to go hunting. He's got his driver's license. He's 16 years of age. Legally, he can go out into the woods and hunt by himself. Okay? He gets pulled over. He has a firearm in the vehicle. Now he's going to be a felon.
So I don't think, well, because he's a young person, I don't think that is going to pass. I think they might be looking at putting an age requirement on the AR-15. And I'm just telling you what might be possible.
But if he has a .223 semi-automatic rifle, which you can use during small game
Listen,
seasons.
I shot a .22 when I was 12, so
Well,
I'm good with that. I'm a country girl.
Well, during small game seasons, you can use a .229 caliber rifle, which is larger than a .223. So if he has a .223 semi-automatic rifle, while small game hunting, okay, can it be construed?
I don't know the fine points, I'll be honest with you. I think what we need to do is focus, two things. We need to focus first on our schools. The whole thing here is we need to keep our kids safe. And somehow that's gotten lost in all the rhetoric. We're not talking about how we're keeping our schools safe. Do you know there's $30 million of the Google settlement funds left that the Attorney General has? And I think we ought to use that money to go in and do what we can to make our schools safe. Keep our kids safe. That's number one. And that's what we should be talking about first. Gun laws should be the second thing we talk about. And unfortunately, we just jumped right over the kids to go after the guns. But when we talk about guns, I think I would encourage you to focus people on the person behind the gun rather than the gun itself.
Exactly, and that's why we should
And
be
always
making our
turn
schools
it
prisons.
to the mental health issue. I think everybody who has been a mass shooter has been judged to be mentally ill. This young man, this person was in Florida. The guy in the movie theater, he was mentally ill. So let's focus people on that part of it. That's why the red flag laws, I think, are going to be our friend, because we focus people on mental illness and not on the gun. The gun you can lay it on that table, it won't kill anybody. It's the person who's pulling the trigger. So we have to figure out, I mean, Judge Flanders was talking about the NICS fix. Maybe that will help strengthen so that we can find these people who are mentally ill. The red flag laws will certainly help with suicides. Again, I don't know how successful they'll be against the mentally ill. But the truth is, the police blew this one, I think, in Florida. And I'm not dumping on law enforcement, because I really support our police. But for some reason, they kept seeing this warning, this person who kept saying, I'm going to be a professional school shooter, and they didn't act. So maybe these red flag laws will give them the ability to act. But while we give them the ability to act, we've got to make sure that constitutional rights are also protected. So we will do that. We'll do the best we can.
Anybody wants to speak to Representative Morgan? I'm sure
I've
she'll be
spoken
happy
too
to.
long.
No,
I'm
you haven't.
sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.